Marcus Reed was an ordinary man. He lived on Earth, worked as a deep space mechanic, and liked quiet evenings with his dog, Dusty. He wasn't rich, he wasn't famous, he didn't even own a hover car. But somehow, against all odds, he was chosen by the galactic consul himself to marry not one, but two alien princesses. The message came in the middle of the night. His small apartment buzzed with blue light as his compad blinked. He rubbed his eyes, sat up, and pressed the button. A tall, four-eyed alien appeared on the screen. He had smooth purple skin and golden robes. His name was Consul Zorath, leader of the Zarian Empire and one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Marcus Reed of Earth, the consul said in a deep voice. After careful thought, you have been chosen as the bondmate of my granddaughters, Lyra and Seelan Zorath. You will travel to Zarian Prime within 2 cycles. This is final. Marcus stared at the screen. What? Just 6 months ago, Earth had joined the Galactic Alliance, a huge group of alien civilizations. Humans were new, small, still learning the galaxy's ways. Most species saw them as weak or unimportant. So why him? Why a human? And not just any human, but Marcus? His boss didn't believe it until government ships arrived the next day. A group of clean-cut officers explained everything. The choice was real. The invitation was real. And if he refused, it would be considered a dishonor. They're not forcing you, one officer said carefully. But this is a rare gift, Marcus. An opportunity no one else on Earth has been given. He didn't sleep that night. He sat on his balcony, looking up at the stars. Dusty laid beside him, resting his head on Marcus's lap. I'm just a mechanic, Marcus whispered. Why me? Dusty wagged his tail and gave no answers. 2 weeks later, Marcus stood aboard a silver ship called Unity Flame, heading toward Zarian Prime. The stars outside the window stretched like rivers of light. The inside of the ship was clean and bright, filled with soft music and helpful bots. The captain, a friendly insectoid named Jakar, offered him tea made from moon leaves. Marcus politely declined. He still felt like this was a dream, a strange, impossible dream. On the 3rd day of travel, he finally asked the captain, "Why would the consul choose a human? We're barely part of the alliance." Jakar rubbed his antennae thoughtfully. I heard the consul was looking for someone different. Not from the elite, not trained in politics. He wanted someone honest, someone who values loyalty over power. Still, Marcus muttered, there are millions of people out there better than me. Perhaps, Jakar said, but he chose you. That means something. Zarian Prime was a jewel in space. The planet glowed with soft violet clouds and floating cities. Ships flew between glowing towers. Giant trees with silver leaves stretched over wide parks. Music echoed in the wind, and even the sky sparkled. Marcus had never seen anything like it. When he stepped off the ship, a tall alien woman in white armor greeted him. She had deep blue skin, short silver hair, and sharp golden eyes. I am Captain Vireen, she said. You will follow me. She didn't smile. She didn't shake his hand. Marcus followed silently. The consul's palace was made of crystal and stone. It stood on a cliff above the ocean, surrounded by waterfalls and flying creatures. Guards in golden armor lined the halls. Inside, the air smelled of spice and flowers. Marcus was led into a great chamber. There, on a high seat, sat Consul Zorath himself. Beside him stood 2 women, one tall and graceful, the other fierce and strong. They both had blue skin like Captain Vireen, but their eyes were different. One had soft green eyes, the other bright red. Marcus knew immediately. Lyra and Seelan. The consul stood. Marcus Reed, he said. You are welcome. These are my granddaughters. They are my pride, and they will be your bondmates. Marcus bowed awkwardly. Thank you. I mean, it's an honor, I think. Celine narrowed her red eyes. You don't sound very sure. Lyra crossed her arms. He looks confused. Marcus rubbed the back of his neck. That's because I am confused. I'm just a mechanic from Earth. I don't even have a college degree. Why would you want me? The consul smiled faintly. Because I have watched you, Marcus. You saved your crew from a reactor leak. You risked your life for people you barely knew. You told the truth, even when it cost you. He stepped closer. In this galaxy, we have many who lie with smiles, who wear honor like a mask. But you are what you appear to be. That is rare. Marcus didn't know what to say. That night, he was given a room in the palace. It was bigger than his entire apartment back home. There were floating lights, soft beds, even a small garden in the corner. But Marcus didn't feel at home. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring out at the glowing sea. Somewhere out there were Lyra and Celine, two alien princesses who didn't trust him. And who could blame them? They didn't choose him. He didn't choose them. This wasn't a love story. It was a political one. He sighed. Then a voice behind him said, "You really are as nervous as you look." He turned. It was Lyra, standing in the doorway. She wore a silver cloak and carried a small glowing orb. "You could have run," she said. "Many would have, but you didn't." Marcus shrugged. "Didn't seem polite." She tilted her head. "You're honest. That's interesting." He looked at her carefully. "And you? Are you okay with this arrangement?" She smiled, just a little. "No, but I'm willing to see what happens." They stared at each other for a moment. Not as strangers, not as enemies. Just two people, both unsure, both curious. "Good night, Marcus Reed," she said softly, then walked away. "Good night, Princess," he replied. The next morning, Marcus woke to the sound of soft music and birds he had never seen before. The sky outside was pale pink, and gentle waves crashed against the cliff far below. The palace was peaceful, but Marcus felt far from calm. He was about to meet both Lyra and Celine properly for the first time. Not just a formal greeting, but a full day of spending time together. He stood in front of the mirror, unsure of what to wear. The palace staff had left some formal robes for him, smooth, silver, and covered in glowing designs, but he chose his simple earth jacket instead. He wanted to be himself. A soft knock came at the door. It was Captain Vereen again. "The granddaughters are waiting," she said. "Please follow." Marcus nodded and walked beside her through the glowing halls. They arrived at a private garden inside the palace. It was floating above the ocean, supported by invisible fields. There were strange trees with blue leaves, flowers that hummed softly, and small flying creatures with crystal wings. There, standing near a clear water fountain, were Lyra and Celine. Lyra wore a long purple robe with silver patterns. Her green eyes watched him with calm curiosity. Celine wore dark armor and had her arms crossed. Her red eyes showed no warmth. Marcus gave a small bow. "Good morning," he said. Celine raised an eyebrow. "You slept well in our palace, human?" "Better than I expected," Marcus answered, trying not to sound nervous. "Your home is beautiful," Lyra stepped forward. "Today we learn about each other. That is our grandfather's will." Marcus nodded. "Then let's begin." Their first stop was the Memory Dome, a place where the Zarians kept important memories through light and sound. A round, clear building floated over the ocean, and inside were thousands of glowing spheres, each holding a memory from the past. Lyra placed her hand on one sphere. A soft light floated above her palm. "This is the day I completed my first peace negotiation," she said. "I was 15 cycles old. The other species wanted war. I gave them reason to talk instead." A vision appeared in the air. Lyra, standing tall, speaking in front of alien leaders. Even as a teenager, she looked confident and calm. Seelan moved to another sphere. This is from my first combat trial. I defeated 4 elite warriors in 10 minutes. The image showed her fighting with speed and power, her armor glowing red, her movements sharp and controlled. They turned to Marcus. He looked around, a bit embarrassed. I don't have glowing memory balls, he said with a grin. But I do have this. He pulled a small photo from his pocket. It was old, folded, and faded. This is my crew, he said. 5 years ago, our ship's engine broke near a sun. We didn't have enough fuel to escape. The sisters leaned in. I climbed into the heat chamber, rerouted power, and almost melted my suit doing it. We survived. Just barely. Seelan stared at the photo. You look different. I had more hair back then, Marcus joked. Lyra smiled. Just a little. Next, they walked through the Hall of Winds, where natural air from other planets blew, through musical columns. As they listened to the sounds, Lyra asked a question. Why did you say yes to this arrangement? Marcus thought for a moment. At first, I didn't want to. I didn't understand it, but then I realized maybe there's a reason. Maybe something good can come from it. Do you wish to be powerful? Seelan asked. No, Marcus said. I just want to be useful, to do something that matters. Seelan watched him carefully. Most people lie when they say things like that. Well, I'm not most people, Marcus replied. Later, they entered the training grounds where young warriors practiced combat. Seelan challenged Marcus to a friendly sparring match. Marcus laughed nervously. I haven't been in a fight since high school. Good, Seelan said. You'll learn something today. They both wore training gear and stood in the center of the arena. Lyra watched from the side with a curious expression. Seelan moved fast. Too fast. In seconds, Marcus was flat on his back. He groaned. Seelan stood over him. You're slow, Marcus. Sat up and grinned. You hit hard. They tried again and again. By the 5th round, Marcus managed to dodge her strike and land a soft tap on her shoulder. Seelan blinked. You learn quickly, he smiled. That's what humans do best. After training, the three sat together in a quiet corner of the garden. Lyra asked softly, What do humans think of love? Marcus thought carefully. We think love is more than attraction, he said. It's trust. It's choosing someone every day, even when things are hard. It's not perfect, but it's honest. Seelan leaned back. Zarian marriages are for duty, for alliances, rarely for love. Do you want love? Marcus asked gently. Both sisters were silent for a moment. Then Lyra said, We don't know yet. As the sun began to set, the sky turned orange and gold. Floating lights lit the garden and a soft breeze passed through the trees. Marcus stood and looked at the stars above. I've never been this far from Earth, he said quietly. But it doesn't feel as far now. Lyra stood beside him. You surprised me today, Marcus Reed. So did you, he replied. Seelan joined them. Tomorrow you will meet the High Council. They will judge if you are worthy. Marcus turned to her. And what do you think? Seelan gave a small smirk. You haven't earned my trust yet, but I don't hate you. That's a start, Marcus said, smiling. As they walked back toward the palace, Marcus felt a strange peace in his chest. He still didn't know if he belonged here. He didn't know if Lyra and Seelan would ever accept him as a real partner. But, for the first time since this all began, he felt hope. Not just for himself, but for the future of Earth and the stars. The morning sun rose bright over Zarian Prime, casting gold light on the crystal towers and floating gardens. Inside the grand palace, Marcus Reed stood quietly, staring at his reflection in the mirror. Today was not just any day. Today he would face the trials of loyalty. It was a tradition in the Tsarian Empire. Anyone chosen to bond with royal blood must prove their honor, strength, and courage through a series of ancient trials. Even if the consul had already chosen Marcus, the council of elders had to agree. Without their approval, the bonding ceremony would never happen. Captain Vereen entered his chamber dressed in formal armor. "It is time," she said. Marcus took a deep breath and followed. The trial grounds were inside a massive dome made of dark stone and silver pillars. High above, the seats were filled with alien nobles, military leaders, and council members from many species. Among them sat Consul Zorath, calm and silent. Beside him were Lyra and Seelan, both watching closely. In the center of the arena, a tall elder in red robes stood with a staff. "Marcus Reed," the elder spoke. "You are not of our world. You do not understand our ways. But if you wish to bond with the consul's blood, you must prove your spirit through 3 trials." "I understand," Marcus said, standing tall. "Then begin." Trial 1. The A. Fire of Truth. In this trial, Marcus stood in a glowing ring of light while questions were asked. A machine floated above, reading heart rate, voice changes, and brain patterns. If he lied, the ring would flash red, and he would fail. The elder asked, "Have you ever betrayed someone who trusted you?" Marcus thought carefully. "Yes," he admitted. "When I was younger, I left a friend behind during a dangerous job. I saved myself, but not him. I still regret it." The ring glowed blue. Truth. "Would you abandon Lyra or Seelan if your life was in danger?" Marcus answered quickly. "No. I've made that mistake once. Never again." Blue. "Do you seek power?" "No," he said. "I want to earn respect, not steal it." Blue. The trial ended with quiet murmurs in the crowd. Many expected a human to lie or hide weakness. But Marcus had spoken plainly, even about his past mistakes. Lyra gave a small nod. Seelan didn't smile, but her eyes narrowed with interest. Trial 2. The path of pain Marcus was led to a room filled with walls of shifting energy. The floor was hot. The air was dry. Ahead was a narrow path filled with sharp stones, sparks, and traps. The goal was simple: walk the full path without stopping and without falling. Marcus removed his jacket. He knew this wouldn't be easy. He stepped forward. The first section sent small shocks through his boots. He clenched his teeth and kept going. The second section fired sharp bursts of hot air at his legs. He almost stumbled but pushed forward. Sweat poured from his face. His skin burned. His feet bled. At one point he tripped and fell to his knees. The guards watching moved to assist, but Marcus waved them away. He forced himself up and kept walking. From above, Seelan whispered to her sister, "Most warriors fall by now." But Marcus didn't fall again. When he reached the end, barely able to stand, the crowd stood and clapped. Not because he was the strongest, but because he refused to quit. Trial 3. The choice of sacrifice. This was the most dangerous trial. Marcus stood inside a round chamber. In front of him were 3 cages, each holding a living creature. One was a Tsarian child, one was a rare alien animal, and the third was Dusty, his dog. Somehow they had brought his pet from Earth. A voice echoed from above. "You may save only one. The others will be taken." Marcus's heart pounded. He looked at the child, innocent, scared. He looked at the animal, endangered, beautiful. He looked at Dusty, his best friend. He knew what this trial was. It wasn't about strength. It was about sacrifice. Tears filled Marcus's eyes. He stepped forward and said, "Save the child." The cages disappeared in a blink. Suddenly, Dusty appeared beside him, tail wagging. The voice spoke again. "You passed. The choice was never real, but your answer was." The audience grew silent. Then slowly, one by one, people began to stand. The council, the nobles, even some who doubted him, all gave quiet respect. After the trials, Marcus was taken to a healing chamber. Robots treated his burns and cleaned his wounds. Lyra entered, holding a cool drink. "You passed all three," she said softly. "Barely," Marcus joked, wincing. She sat beside him. "You chose the child over your own pet. That was not easy." "It nearly broke me," Marcus admitted. "But some things matter more than what we love." Seelan entered next. She stood at the door, arms crossed. "I still think you're reckless," she said. "But I also think you have heart. Maybe too much of it." Marcus looked up. "Is that a compliment?" Seelan smirked. "A small one." That evening, Consul Zorath held a private feast in the palace garden. Soft lights floated in the air. Musicians played gentle notes on stringed instruments. Marcus sat beside Lyra and Seelan, now dressed in clean, formal robes. The consul raised his glass. "Marcus Reed," he said, "you were not born into greatness. You did not train for this life. But today you showed the strength of your soul." He looked at his granddaughters. "And you two saw it with your own eyes." Lyra lifted her glass. "To the unexpected." Seelan followed. "To the human who won his place." Marcus smiled. "To the future." They clinked their glasses together. Later, as the stars filled the sky, Marcus stood alone by the balcony. Dusty sat beside him, tail wagging. "You did good today," he whispered, scratching the dog's ears. Behind him, Lyra stepped quietly. "You are different from the others we've known," she said. "Is that good or bad?" Marcus asked. "I don't know yet," she replied, "but I'm willing to find out." Seelan joined them. She looked up at the stars. "You will always be tested, Marcus. People will question why you were chosen." "I know," Marcus said, "but I'll keep proving it, one step at a time." Far above them, in the council tower, old eyes watched through screens. A quiet voice said, "The human may be more dangerous and more valuable than we thought." Another voice replied, "Then let us see what he does next." The stars over Zarian Prime were brighter than usual. 1,000 ships hovered above the palace, glowing like jewels in the night sky. Across the galaxy, people watched the live broadcast on their screens. It was not just a royal ceremony, it was the start of a new era. Today, Marcus Reed, a human from Earth, would officially bond with Lyra and Seelan Zorath, the granddaughters of Consul Zorath. For many alien leaders, this was a strange and shocking moment. But for others, it was a powerful sign of change. Humans were no longer outsiders. They were becoming part of something far greater. Marcus stood in front of a mirror again, but this time, he felt different. He had passed the trials. He had earned the respect of Lyra and Seelan. He had survived pain, pressure, and public judgment. And now, he was preparing for the greatest honor and responsibility of his life. A gentle knock came at the door. It was Captain Vireen. "Your robes, Marcus," she said, holding out a folded set of ceremonial garments. They shimmered with light and shifted colors with every movement. He took them with care. "How do I look?" "Like a man who changed." "The galaxy," she said with a rare smile. The ceremony of bonding took place in the Palace Sky Hall, a massive open platform that floated high above the ocean cliffs. Clear walls of energy protected the guests from the wind, while music played from floating crystal spheres. Thousands of guests stood in organized rows, ambassadors, generals, scholars, and even a few humans who had arrived from Earth. Among them stood Earth's own ambassador, a woman named Dr. Elira Brandt, who had tears in her eyes. "I never imagined it would be you, Marcus," she whispered. He gave her a small nod. Then, he walked to the center of the platform. Consul Zorath stood before the crowd, tall and proud. He raised his hand, and silence spread across the sky. "Let the galaxy witness this bond," he said. "A union not only of hearts, but of worlds." He turned to Marcus. "Marcus Reed of Earth, do you accept Lyra and Seelan not as prizes but as partners, equal in mind, soul, and duty?" "I do," Marcus said clearly. Then Zorath turned to his granddaughters. "Lyra and Seelan Zorath, do you accept this man of Earth not for his origin, but for his actions, his spirit, and his heart?" "We do," both sisters said in unison. Light surrounded them. A golden ring formed in the air and broke into glowing dust that floated into the sky. The crowd erupted in applause. After the ceremony, the celebration began. Alien dancers filled the halls with movement. Foods from across the stars were served. Music echoed from every room. Even the most serious council members raised their glasses. Marcus stood beside Lyra and Seelan as leaders from dozens of species came forward to greet them. The first to approach was the ambassador of the Thrax Dominion, a tall reptilian with a deep voice. "You've done something few have ever done," he said to Marcus. "You made peace between distrustful hearts. I salute you." Then came the Kirel Queen, with her silk-like wings. "Your courage has created a bridge," she said. "We hope it does not break." Marcus bowed politely. "I will do everything I can to protect it." Later that night, Marcus walked onto a private balcony. He needed a moment to breathe. The ocean below was calm. The stars above shimmered like old friends. Lyra joined him first. "You look nervous," she said gently. "I still am," Marcus admitted. "I'm not used to being called important." "You earned it," she replied. "But now, it will only get harder." Seelan stepped out next, holding a small drink. "The council was impressed today, but some of them are still watching you closely." "I figured as much," Marcus said. "I saw their faces. Some smiled, some didn't." "They're waiting for you to fail," Seelan said honestly. "Then I won't," Marcus replied. The sisters looked at him with quiet respect. Suddenly, an alert buzzed through the palace. Red lights flashed. Guards ran to secure doors. Marcus and the sisters rushed back inside, where Consul Zorath stood before a large holographic screen. A military officer spoke quickly. "Emergency signal from the planet Virel 7. Enemy ships just crossed the border." "Over 30 vessels. Unknown technology." Zorath narrowed his eyes. "Have they attacked?" "Not yet, but their weapons are charged. The colony is calling for help." Marcus stepped forward. "Virel 7, isn't that a human-Zarian joint colony?" "Yes," Zorath said. "Your people live there now, too." "We have to help them," Marcus said. Seelan nodded. "We agree." Zorath looked at all three of them. "Then this is your first mission, together." The next morning, the warship Starborn Flame lifted from the palace launch bay. Marcus wore his new command badge. Lyra stood beside him as diplomatic advisor. Seelan wore her armor, ready to lead combat forces. For the first time, they were not just bonding partners. They were a team. As the ship jumped through hyperspace, Marcus sat in the captain's chair, still trying to believe everything that was happening. "How did I get here?" he whispered. Lyra leaned close. "By being the one person no one expected." Seelan smirked. "Let's see if you can keep surprising them." Virel 7 appeared through the ship's front window, a green and blue world with floating farms and city domes. But above the planet hovered dark ships, shaped like claws and covered in red markings. They were not from any known Alliance species. Marcus stood. "Open a channel." The alien fleet replied, but their language was scrambled. "They're jamming translation," said Lyra. "That means they don't want peace." Seelan stepped forward. "Weapons are live. They're charging beams. Marcus didn't hesitate. Shields up. Prepare all defense systems. The enemy fired. The starborn flame shook as blasts hit the shields. Other defense ships from the colony rose to join the fight, but they were outnumbered. Marcus turned to Seelan. Can we hold them? Not forever, she said. We need a distraction. Marcus thought fast. Lyra, can we send a deep signal to Alliance Command? I'll try, she said. Marcus took the mic. This is Commander Marcus Reed of the Starborn Flame. To all nearby ships, this is not just a colony under attack. This is the future of our alliance. We need you, now. His voice echoed across space. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Just as their shields began to crack, help arrived. Hundreds of ships dropped out of hyperspace. Zarian fighters, human cruisers, even Thrax destroyers joined the battle. The sky exploded with light. Marcus stood at the center of the command deck, shouting orders, working with Seelan and Lyra as one. The starborn flame led the charge. The enemy. Ships, seeing the united front, began to retreat. The colony was saved. After the battle, a message came from Earth's ambassador. Marcus, she said, you didn't just marry into royalty. You became a symbol. Humanity is proud of you. Zorath also sent a message. You have done what I hoped. You united more than hearts. You united peoples. As the ship returned home, Marcus stood once more on the balcony, looking out into space. This time, Lyra took his hand. Seelan stood on, his other side resting her sword across her back. He smiled. Together, they were more than a union. They were the future. Weeks had passed since the Battle of Virel 7. The galaxy had changed. Across hundreds of worlds, news spread fast. A human, Marcus Reed, had stood beside 2 Zarian princesses and led a fleet to victory. Some called it luck. Others called it a miracle. But most began to call it what it truly was, the beginning of a new era. In the skies of Zarian Prime, the starborn flame now floated with pride, its hull freshly repaired, its crew fully trained. And at its heart stood Marcus, Lyra, and Seelan. No longer just bonded partners, but leaders of something greater. They were known now as the Triad of Peace. Inside the council hall, Consul Zorath stood before the galaxy's leaders. His voice was calm, but full of strength. For too long we have lived apart, he said, species with walls between them. But this new bond has changed everything. We saw it on Virel 7. We saw it in Marcus Reed. He looked toward Marcus, who sat with Lyra and Seelan by his side. I now ask the Council to approve a new branch of defense and diplomacy, a team led by Marcus and my granddaughters, a symbol of unity, guardians of all Alliance worlds. The chamber was silent. Then, one by one, leaders stood and nodded. Approval was granted. After the vote, Marcus walked through the palace gardens with Lyra and Seelan. This is too big, he said. I fixed ships for a living. Now I'm a galaxy guardian? You earned this, Lyra said, placing a gentle hand on his arm. Not by birth, but by heart. Seelan added, You're still a little clumsy in battle, though. Marcus laughed. And you still punch harder than anyone I've ever met. The three of them stood together beneath the glowing trees. They were no longer unsure strangers. They were partners, equals, family. But peace never lasts forever. One night, while the stars above Zarian Prime shined bright, a signal reached the Alliance. It came from beyond the known sectors. A dead zone. A strange, distorted voice whispered through static. We see your unity. We see your weakness. Prepare for cleansing. The signal vanished. No location, no identity, just a warning. Inside the war room, leaders gathered again. Fear was in the air. What does it mean? One alien general asked. Who sent it? Asked another. But no one had an answer. Except Marcus. We find out, he said. We don't wait for them to strike. We strike first. Zorath agreed. Then the Triad of Peace will go, and you will not be alone. The Guardian fleet launched from Alliance space. Dozens of ships, each representing a different species. Humans, Zarians, Thrax, Kyril, and even old rivals flew side by side. Marcus stood on the command deck of the Starborn Flame, his hands on the control rail. Salen stood beside him in her armored uniform. Lyra worked on strategy and signals from her station. They had become more than symbols. They were now leaders of a united front. As they crossed into the unknown zone, strange things began to happen. Stars blinked out. Gravity shifted oddly. Ships lost contact for seconds. Then the enemy appeared. They were like shadows, ships made of black metal, shaped like claws and bones. Their weapons were silent. Their signals were whispers. No known species had built them. They came from deep space, the void edge, as ancient texts called it. They had been watching the galaxy for years. Now they wanted to destroy it. And the Guardian fleet stood in their way. The battle was like none before. Void ships attacked with energy that bent space itself. Normal weapons failed. Old shields cracked. But the Guardian fleet held firm. Marcus gave calm orders, watching every move. Lyra, tell the Kyril to pull left. Give the Thrax room to fire. Selen, launch pulse bombs now. The sisters moved fast, their training and instincts sharp. Their trust in each other unbreakable. Then came the real threat. A giant void. Dreadnought appeared, 10 times larger than anything they had seen. Its power core could destroy entire planets. Marcus knew they had seconds to act. He made a choice. Go inside. Selen turned. Are you crazy? Lyra nodded slowly. No, he's right. That core can't be stopped from the outside. They took a small strike craft, just the 3 of them. Flying through lasers and dark energy, they entered the Dreadnought's core chamber. Inside, glowing cables pulsed like veins. A living machine. Selen fought off enemy drones while Lyra hacked. The controls. Marcus moved to the heart of the core and saw it. The energy crystal. It pulsed with dark matter. There was only one way to stop it. He had to place a fusion overload inside, manually. As he moved forward, Selen shouted, "That could kill you." Marcus turned to them, sweat on his brow. "If I don't, we all die." But Lyra stepped forward. "Not alone," Selen joined. "Never alone." Together, they locked the overload inside and raced out just as the chamber exploded behind them. The Dreadnought began to crack, its body breaking apart. Outside, the Guardian fleet watched as the giant ship fell, its dark core silenced forever. The void ships retreated. They had been beaten. After the battle, the fleet returned home. There were cheers on every planet. Songs were written. Statues were built. But Marcus didn't care about fame. He stood in the garden again, quiet, peaceful. Dusty sat beside him, tail wagging. Selen walked over and dropped her helmet on the table. That was too close. Much too close, Marcus. Agreed. Lyra joined them, bringing tea. "You were ready to die, weren't you?" she asked. Marcus nodded. "If it meant saving you, and everyone else." Selen looked down. "Don't do that again. Next time we all live." He smiled. "Deal." Months later, Marcus stood before a class of young cadets from across the stars. He gave a simple speech. "I wasn't born to be great," he said. "I wasn't chosen because I was strong. I was chosen because I stood when it mattered." He looked out at the young faces, Zarian, human, Thrax, and more. "If you remember one thing, remember this. True strength is not in power. It's in who you stand beside." That night, Marcus, Lyra, and Selen walked through the glowing gardens of the palace once more. "I never thought my life would end up like this," Marcus said. "You were never just a mechanic," Lyra replied. Selen added, "You were always something more. You just didn't know it yet. The stars sparkled above them, and for the first time, the galaxy felt whole. Together, they walked forward, not just as leaders, but as guardians of peace.